some service at the bank, if you had control over, maybe you were the president of some company that they deal with, they want to know all relationships so they could treat you correctly and continue to grow their business. And so all those things are happening. Hospitals wanted, online admitting, for example. That's one of the applications we installed. And so it was all about gathering information, gathering it as quickly as you can, and then having access and easy update to know about your customers or your patients or whatever. And so just fascinating growth in applications, and therefore the computers that were required to work them, the disk space you needed. Performance was a big deal, especially with the real-time stuff. And so I'm not sure I answered your question, but that's kind of what was happening in those days.
That's what you were doing in IBM?
I was working on all those things.
Okay.
In Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Did you work more in the software development area rather than kind of going out and selling?
Well, the systems engineering job was supported sales, but often what happened during that time was you worked with the customers. If a new computer was installed, you had to work with the customer to get it implemented and doing whatever applications they bought it to perform. If there was already an existing computer, you were working with the customer to help develop new applications to, like, let's install this online system and help do that. And in effect, that increased their capacity needs, increased the use of the computer for value to their company, and so they needed bigger and bigger computers and more storage and more application programmers. And so it was all about growing the use of computers and providing value to the business. But to IBM, it was about doing all those things to sell more equipment or software services or software.
All right.
I never considered myself a salesman, though, but that's in effect what everybody was doing. It was indirectly selling.
Okay. How long have we gone, do you think?
Well, how about we go about another 10 minutes, because I need to go to the airport.
Okay.
Or we can stop now. I think we've been about 20 or 30 minutes, maybe.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's a question. Are you, I think you've already answered this, but are you glad that you are in the computing field?
I am definitely glad, because I have had such fun through all these years of doing various things associated with computers. And as I said earlier, those first years, it was just fascinating to me and fun to learn all the new stuff and to be successful at getting it implemented at customer sites. And I used to get irritated with the customer if they wouldn't work on weekends, for example, because I just, anytime I could get access to a computer, I wanted to be there. And so somewhat to the detriment of time with the family. I just really enjoyed those times. Throughout my career, I've enjoyed all the things I've done. I became a manager lots of years ago. I have to think, I guess 1982, so 25 years ago. And it was interesting when I became a manager. I kind of struggled with that for a while, because I was used to doing things myself. And I kind of missed the excitement and fun of having something work, because my job now was to work with people, and people are a little different than computers. But anyway, over the last 25 years, I've learned to enjoy seeing the people that report to me be successful and have fun learning. And so certainly over the last few years, I have had maybe close to as much fun, because I have finally achieved that place where I get as much, it's almost like my grandkids. I love seeing people be successful, learning, happy, enjoying work, and achieving success. And so I finally got to the point where it's fun for me to see others do all that fun work.
All right. I guess, I don't know if you've already answered this or not, but like, can you maybe describe a few more of the systems? I think that's kind of what Dr. Chris was wanting, is you to describe some of the computing environments and stuff that you worked with.
Okay. So I got out of college, I went to work for IBM and went off to a 15-week training program because, as I said, I only knew Fortran 2. And that was not what commercial IBM customers use. I used the assembler language that was the old 360 assembler, COBOL, PL1 was a big push language at the time from IBM. RPG was a language for the smaller systems. I believe that's about it. So anyway, I went to all those classes and came back, and I actually went away for some military training and came back and moved to Fort Smith. And some of my early implementation were on these System 3 computers, which were brand new and low cost and were being installed in lots of smaller businesses. And so that was RPG, and did a good bit of RPG programming because I wrote application code to help get those systems working. Arcola Sand and Gravel in Fort Smith, I worked with them on some applications. A company that's no longer in business, I believe, Berry Dry Goods, which Artie Berry was a good friend of Charles Morgan, who's the CEO, company leader of Axiom. And the first complete installation, which meant we sold the computer, I wrote all the application code helping a person that Berry Dry Goods had written. Charles had designed the system for his friend Artie, and so it was my job to implement that. And so we implemented that System 3 Model 6. You had to go back in history to see what that really was, but that System 3 Model 6 at Berry Dry Goods. And the guy that they got to help me was, I believe he was an Oklahoma person, not to say that people from Oklahoma are bad, but he didn't have much experience with computers. And so we had a number of interesting things, and one of the really funny things I remember is he called me one day and he said, there's a problem with the disk drive. And so this system had a fixed disk, so there was a disk inside you couldn't get out. And then it had a removable disk. And these were 2.5 million character capacity disks. But the disk was about 13 inches in diameter and about 2.5 inches thick. And he said, well, it won't read that disk. I said, okay, well, what about the backup? He said, it won't read that one either. Well, what happened? He said, well, I put the first one in, it didn't work, so I took it out and put in the second one. And so what had happened is the mechanics had messed up, and he had destroyed our production disk as well as the backup. But he wouldn't give up trying to make that. That was at Berry Dry Goods. At First National Bank, as I said, they had a Model 30. This was in 1972, I guess. And they had a 32K Model 30, and they basically did batch processing. And the salesman at the time, Larry Davenport, who I think is also in this deal, sold them this customer information file. And so they were going to put in an online system and know all about their customers, and so I got involved in that. And like I say, we upgraded their computer from 32 to 64K and started writing an online application in a 64K computer. This was the early days of online systems, and not long after that, CICS, Customer Information Control System, the early stages of that product came out from IBM, and so we switched to that. And I believe they ordered a System 370 135 with 96K of memory. And I thought, how will we ever need more than this? And you know, within 3 months we need more memory. But anyway, implemented various online applications at the bank. Larger computers, 145s. Much of the work was implementing DOS BS, disk operating system virtual storage, and so everybody had a mainframe. Eventually implemented that with newer computers. And what else did we do? Got involved with some IBM System 7s, which was a process control computer. But I guess it wasn't selling well at IBM, so there was a big press to go sell one somewhere, and we were, I guess it was good that we sold one, because the salesman made quote, it was bad what we sold it for, because we installed a System 7 at Sparks Regional Medical Center to do time clock processing. And so the idea was you put magnetic stripe readers in all the places, remove the time clocks, you know, punch your card, and people just use a magnetic stripe and log in. And so we got that implemented fairly quickly, but there were a few problems, like when you check in with the time card and a nurse supervisor looks, they can say, well, this person came in at 7:32 and they're supposed to be here at 7:45, so I'll give them 8 hours for the day, although they were here a little early and left maybe slightly early. And so with the computer and the application, you got to be exact, you know, when do you charge, when do they get 8 hours, when do they get 8 1/4, when do they get 8 1/2. And it was further a problem that these badge readers didn't have a time. So you didn't know what time the computer thought it was when you clocked in and out. And so there were tremendous issues with paying people overtime, because they wanted to get there a little early, but they didn't know what time to clock in, so they clocked in a little earlier, and we were paying people half-hour overtime when back in the old days of the time clock, they would pay them 8 hours. And so that resulted in having a display of time on the badge reader, so when you stick your badge in, you know what time it is, because they had rules, you know, you can't come in early and do this stuff. And we improved the application to be smarter about not calculating the exact time you were there, and nurses had to spend more time looking at reports rather than just skimming through time cards. And anyway, long story short, it took 6 months to a year to kind of get that system settled down, primarily because we sold something that was not an exact fit. And it was, now I think everybody uses, you know, this kind of stuff, but back then we didn't have the time, we had not good applications, and it was really a challenge to make that work for that hospital. So System 7s, what else? I guess that kind of covers about my 8 or 9 years.